On this episode of China Uncensored, if you travel to China, don't drink the water. Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. You know, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how big China's army is, how much money they can bring to bear, or even how tight a grip they can keep on the media. If the Chinese regime can't even assure the basic needs of the people, things fall apart. Lately, everyone's been talking about China's air pollution. According to China's Ministry of Environmental Protection, only 4 cities have acceptable air quality. That's it. And one of those is Lhasa. Moving to Tibet probably won't be the solution. But there's an even greater environmental threat. China is drying up. Water is running out. In the 1950s, there were 50,000 significant rivers. Now, less than half remain. And even though on average Chinese people use less water compared to many industrialized countries, less than a quarter of what Americans use, there is still way too little to go around. China has less than half of what is internationally defined as water stress, the point where there's not enough water to go around. But the real situation is worse than that. The national average skews the numbers. 4/5 of China's water is in the south. That means in reality, the north of China has about as much water as Saudi Arabia. If you live in Beijing, by bathing twice a day, you would have used up all the water that's available to you for the year. So forget about things like brushing your teeth, cooking, cleaning, and making tea. And that's just on an individual level. Then there are businesses, restaurants, public spaces that all use water in the same way. Then there are fountains, industry, agriculture. Water is fundamental. And now for the really bad news. According to government stats, what little water China has is undrinkable. Half of all China's lakes and reservoirs are polluted beyond what's safe for human consumption. This is what's left of the Yangtze River, a UNESCO-approved scenic spot in Guangxi. The Yellow River is lined with thousands of chemical plants. Parts of it are even deemed unfit for agriculture. And since the 1960s, about 10,000 corpses have washed up along China's rivers, 300 in 2012 alone, and that was just in the area near Lanzhou in northwest Gansu province. In August of this year, Shanghai published its first water census. The actual survey was done between 2010 and 2012. Only 3% was fit for drinking, but over half was deemed so polluted it couldn't be used for anything. Not even industrial use, not even in a fountain. But hey, that was before. Maybe things got better in 2013. Well, remember this? Yeah, these little piglets probably didn't do much to improve the water quality. And remember, Shanghai is one of China's biggest and most prosperous cities. How many of you watching have been to Shanghai and had something to drink? So if you visit China, you step into your hotel shower, you'll come out smelling worse. Tap water is usually undrinkable, anywhere. So what is the government doing about it? Well, for one, they keep building coal power plants and shale gas wells that guzzle billions of cubic meters of water a year, and they build them in water-starved regions like Xinjiang. I wonder why Xinjiang is so unstable. But what the Chinese regime is doing to get more water verges on insanity. First, they only recycle about 40% of their water. That's half of what Europe does. Then, since the government is run by people who made their fortunes off state-run monopolies, instead of small, meaningful reforms, they like to embark on high-profile major construction projects that cause more problems than they solve. The biggest was the Three Gorges Dam that displaced 1.3 million people, destroyed over 2,000 archaeological sites, caused catastrophic flooding in some places and crippling droughts in others, and also, because it sits on a seismic fault, caused 30 times more earthquakes than before the dam was built. Those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. That's why the next project is even bigger. The South-North Diversion Project will link the horribly polluted Yellow River with the Yangtze River, also horribly polluted. The idea is to send that horribly polluted water from the south to the north, where the water situation is the worst. And all they have to do is drill almost 2,000 miles of tunnels and canals through places like the Himalayas, ignore potentially unlimited environmental consequences, and potentially create an international incident as the project affects countries downstream like India, Bangladesh, and Vietnam. And for all that, The Economist estimates that China will get a mere 7% more water. And the price tag? Close to $80 billion. It would be cheaper to desalinize the same amount of ocean water. And so while I can understand people really like going to water parks, maybe they should be making smarter water decisions. So how do you think the water crisis will affect China? Leave your comments below, remember to subscribe, and be sure to check out the Facebook and Twitter pages for more. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.